Hi everyone. For this second video for week 2, we're going to be talking about the discriminant, which is part of the quadratic formula, and how we can use that discriminant to figure out how many solutions there are to the quadratic. So remember in the last video, I said that there were either 0, 1, or 2 solutions, and that is where the graph of the quadratic hits the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a quick picture for that. So we're going to have 3 graphs here. So if we have 2 solutions, the graph is going to look something like this, where we hit the x-axis twice. 1 solution is going to look like this, and no solutions could look like this, or even like this. Either way, we don't hit the x-axis with either of those 2 quadratics. So I'm going to go ahead and label these. So 2 solutions, 1 solution, and 0 solutions. All right, so the discriminant is part of the quadratic formula. Remember that the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus big square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Now the discriminant is what is under that square root sign, which is also called a radical. It's this b squared minus 4ac. This is our discriminant. Now just like before in the last video when we solved for x, we put in a, b, and c from the equation, and remember we found that a, b, and c by remembering that the standard form of the quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is where our a number is going to come from, our b number, and our c number. Now in problem number 1 of the quiz, they give you the equation x squared plus 10x plus 21 equals 0. And I'm going to clear this out in just a second so that we have more room to work on the screen, but I'm going to leave this up so you can take a screenshot and refer back to it. All right, so let's clear that out. So I'm going to write again that the discriminant, I'm just going to call it D, is what's under that square root sign, that b squared minus 4ac, which it tells you in the problem. And we're given the equation x squared plus 10x plus 21 equals 0. All right, the most important thing to remember here is that when you have regular x squared with no number in front of it, that's the same thing as saying 1x squared, since 1 times any number is itself. So now that we have our 3 numbers in the formula, we can take out our a, b, and c. Our a number is going to be that 1. B is going to be 10. And C is going to be 21. And we have no minus signs here, so we don't need to worry about negatives. Everything's going to be positive. So now that we have A, B, and C, we're going to go ahead and plug it into this formula and figure out what the discriminant number is. So we're going to solve for D. So I have B squared first. I'm going to have 10 squared minus 4. I'm going to bring that down, times my A number, which is 1, and then times my C number, which is 21. And now from here, it's calculator work. 10 squared means 10 times 10, so that's 100. And then here, 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 21 is 84. So this simplifies to 84, and I brought down that minus sign. 100 minus 84 is 16. So here, our first answer is going to be 16. The discriminant is 16. So now we're going to talk about question number 2, which is actually figuring out how many solutions this quadratic equation has by using this discriminant number. So on the notes page and in the video, it said that if the discriminant is less than 0, which means that it's a negative number, we're going to have 0 solutions. We're going to have no real solutions. So remember that graph is going to look something like this. If the discriminant is 0, so D equals 0, then you're going to have 1 solution. So remember that graph looks something like this, where we just hit that x-axis one time. And if D is greater than 0, which means that the discriminant is a positive number, this is where we're going to have, make that a dot so it looks like it's positive. So 0 solutions, 1 solution. This is where we're going to have 2 solutions. And remember, that graph is going to look something like this, where we hit the x-axis 2 times. So because D here is 16 for this problem, and that's a positive number, we know that there's going to be 2 solutions if we graph that equation. And remember, we can use the quadratic formula or factoring to figure out what those solutions are. But for right now, we're just going to be focusing on this discriminant part. So using this formula here, solving for the discriminant, and then using this side where it's either less than 0, equal to 0, or greater than 0 to tell us how many solutions there are. So this is number 1 and number 2. You can go ahead and put that into your quiz questions if you haven't done it already. And then you're going to finish 3 through 10, which is the same style of questions where you're going to find the discriminant, and then you're going to tell me how many solutions there are. If you have any more questions about how to do this, please come to office hours or email me or Mr. Wheeler. This is your reminder that the work for this week, week 2, is due on Sunday, May 5th. That's all for now. Enjoy your weekend.